Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. The class is on Canto 2, the Cosmic Manifestation. Chapter 10, Bhagavatam is the answer to all questions. Text 48, 49, and 50. We're very fortunate this morning to have His Grace Balabhadra Prabhu from ISKCON Atlanta to give the class. Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept our humble obeisances.
Prabhu. All
Yeah,
blessings.
God,
Prabhupada.
it's all yours. Hare Krishna.
Okay. Today is actually the appearance day of Lord Ramchandra.
Yes.
So I'm just going to read, excuse my voice, just going to read one sloka from the Das Avatar. Vitarasi dikshu rane dikshapati kamaniyam dasamukha mali balim ramaniyam keshavadrita rama sarira jaya jagadish hare. O Kesava, O Lord of the universe, O Lord Hari, who have assumed the form of Ramchandra, all glories to you. In the battle of Lanka, you destroy the 10-headed demon Ravan and distribute his heads as a delightful offering to the presiding deities of the 10 directions, headed by Indra. This action was long desired by all of them who were much harassed by this monster. Lord Shri Ramchandra ki jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Om
Vasudevaya.
Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om
Om
Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
So we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, few verses there. Starting verse 48, which I'll have you all repeat. Shonaka uvacha yat ahana bhavam sutta shata bhagavatotama chachara tirtani bhuvas taktva bandhum sudustajan. Shonaka uvacha yat ahano bhavan sutta shata bhagavatotama chachara tirtani bhuvas taktva bandhung sudustajan. Shonaka uvacha yaraha no bhavan sutta shata bhagavatotama chachara tirtani bhuvas taktva bandhung sudustajan. Next.
Shonaka Vacha Yadaha Nubhavan Sutta Kshata Bhagavato Tama Chachara Tetani Bhuvas Tyaktva Bandhun Sudushtyajan. Hare Krishna.
Shanukuvacha Yadaha no Bhavan Sutta Kshata Bhagavatottama Chachara Tirtani Bhuvas Chaktva Bandhun Satushajan.
शौनक उवाच यदाहनो भवान् सुता शत्ता भगवतोत्तमा चचार तीर्थानि भुवस्त्यक्त्वा बन्धून् सुदुस्त्यजान्.
Shaunak Uvacha. Okay, one second. Shaunak Uvacha Yadhano Bhavan Suta Kshatta Bhagavat Uttamaha Chachara Tirthani Bhuvasa Tyaktva Bandhun Sudustayajan. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
शौनक उवाच यदाहनुभावान् सुत क्षत्ता भगवत्तमः चचार तीर्थानि भुवस्त्यक्त्वा बन्धून् सुदुस्तजान्. हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna.
शौनकवाचा यथा नो भवान् सुत क्षत्ता भागवतोत्तमः चचार तीर्थानि भुवस्स त्यक्त्वा बन्धून् सुतुस्तचान् हरे कृष्ण.
Hare Krishna. Anyone else? Word for word translation. Shonaka Uvacha Sri Shonaka Muni said, Yat, as, aha, you said, na, unto us, Bhavan, your good self, Sutta, O Sutta, Shata, Vidura, Bhagavata, Uttama, one of the topmost devotees of the Lord, Chachara, practiced, Tirtani, places of pilgrimage, Bhuvaha, on the earth, Taktwa, leaving aside, Bandun, all relatives, Su Dustajan, very difficult to give up. Translation purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Shonaka Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. For Sutta Goswami had previously informed him how Vidura left home, leaving aside all his relatives, who were very difficult to leave. Purport. The rishis headed by Shonaka were more anxious to know about Vidura, who met Maitreya Rishi while traveling to the pilgrimage sites of the world. Next two verses. Shata Kausharavestasya Sambado Jatma Samsita Yadvasa Bhagavams Tasmai Prishtas Tatvam Uvachaha Bruhinastad idam somya viduras vidurasya vichestitam bandhu tyaga nimitancha yatavagavatam puna. Shonaka Rishi said, let us know, please, what topics were discussed between Vidura and Maitreya, who talked on transcendental subjects, and what was inquired by Vidura and replied by Maitreya. Also, please let us know the reason for Vidura's giving up the connection of his family members and why he again came home. Please also let us know the activities of Vidura while he was in the places of pilgrimage. Purport. Sri Sutta Goswami was narrating the topics of the creation and destruction of the material world, but it appears that the rishis headed by Shonaka were more inclined to hear of transcendental subjects, which are on a higher level than the physical. There are two classes of men, namely those too addicted to to the gross body and the material world, and others on the higher level who are interested more in transcendental knowledge. Srimad Bhagavatam gives facility to everyone, both the materialist and to the transcendentalist. By hearing Srimad Bhagavatam in the matter of the Lord's glorious activities, both in the material world and in the transcendental world, men can derive equal benefit. The materialists are more interested in the physical laws and how they are acting, and they see wonders in those physical glamours. Sometimes, due to physical glamours, they forget the glories of the Lord. They should know definitely that physical activities and their wonders are all initiated by the Lord. The rose in the garden gradually takes its shape and color to become beautiful and sweet, not by a blind physical law, although it appears like that. Behind that physical law is the direction of the complete consciousness of the Supreme Lord. Otherwise, things cannot take shape so systematically. The artist draws a picture of a rose very nicely with attention in artistic sense, and yet it does not become as perfect as the real rose. If that is the real fact, how can we say that the real rose has taken its shape without intelligence behind the beauty? This sort of conclusion is due to a poor fund of knowledge. One must know from the above description of creation and annihilation that the Supreme Consciousness, being omnipresent, can take care of everything with perfect attention. That is the fact of the omnipresence of the Supreme Lord. Persons still more foolish than the gross materialists, however, claim to be transcendentalists and claim to have such supreme, all-pervading consciousness, but offer no proof. Such foolish persons cannot know what is going on behind the next wall. Yet they are falsely proud of possessing the cosmic, all-pervading consciousness of the Supreme Person. For them also, hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is a great help. It will open their eyes to see that simply by claiming supreme consciousness, one does not become supremely conscious. One has to prove in the physical world that he has such supreme consciousness. The rishis of Naimisharanya, however, were above the gross materialists and the false transcendentalists, and thus they were always anxious to know the real truth in transcendental matters, as discussed by authorities. Om Ganati Mirandasha, Chiranjanan Salakaya, Chakshu Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurubhe Namaha, Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Go Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So the beginning of this text 48, Shonak Rishi, after hearing all about the creation, inquired from Sutta Goswami about Vidura. For Sutta Goswami had previously informed them how Vidura left home. So that's mentioned in the first canto and further discussed in the third canto about Vidura leaving the palace of the Pandavas. And it describes how the Pandavas' palace was practically none different from the spiritual world because they were so Krishna conscious. So that's why the question comes up, how could he leave such an auspicious environment as that? So here in the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, the title of the chapter is Dhritarashtra Quits Home. And it describes very nicely, so I'll briefly go through that. Sutta Goswami said, while traveling on a pilgrimage, Vidura received knowledge of the destination of the self from the great sage Maitreya, and then returned to Hastinapur. He became as well versed in the subject as he desired. So one interesting point is that first Vidura met with Uddhava. That was his first meeting. And he was traveling on his pilgrimage, and he came or encountered Uddhava, and that was his first meeting before meeting with Maitreya. And I'll read something that describes why it happened that way in a second. So in the purport, it describes the history of Vidura, which we won't go through all of that, but we know that he was Yamaraj and was cursed to become a Shudra. And Srila Prabhupada actually narrates the whole story, but maybe I'll just read the first part. Once upon a time, the state police caught some thieves who had concealed themselves in the hermitage of Mandukamuni. The police constables, as usual, arrested all the thieves and Mandukamuni along with them. The magistrate specifically punished the Muni to death by being pierced by a lance. When he was just to be pierced, the news reached the king, and he at once stopped the act on consideration of his being a great Muni. The king personally begged the Muni's pardon for the mistake of his men, and the saint at once went to Yamaraj, who prescribed the destiny of the living beings. Yamaraj, being questioned by the Muni, replied that the Muni in his childhood pierced an ant with a sharpened straw, and for that reason he was put into difficulty. The Muni thought it unwise on the part of Yamaraj that he was punished for his childish innocence, and thus the Muni cursed Yamaraj to become a Shudra. And this Shudra incarnation of Yamaraj was known as Vidura, the Shudra brother of Dhritarashtra and Maharaj Prithu. So I'm sorry, Maharaj Pandu. So Srila Prabhupada explains further that Vidura is not a Sudra, but this is simply the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. So because of him being in that situation of birth, he was not in a position to inherit the property of his father. During the fratricidal war of Kurukshetra, Vidura repeatedly implored his brother, elder brother, to do justice to the sons of Pandu. But Duryodhana did not like such interference by his uncle, and thus he practically insulted Vidura. This resulted in Vidura's leaving home for pilgrimage and taking instruction from Maitreya. So that's the reason why Vidura left, because he was being offended by this Duryodhana. And we know throughout the history of Bhagavad Gita and throughout the history of Mahabharata, this Duryodhana was a protagonist causing so many difficulties for the Pandavas, and now here with Vidura. So Vidura left home, but then he came back after he did his pilgrimage, after he met with Uddhava, after he met with, finally with Maitreya. So I wanted to share with you this point, why Vidura basically took initiation from Maitreya and his transcendental knowledge. Let's see, this is from the third canto, and it's described. Questions by Vidura. So it's a very long chapter. Many discussions are there, especially about his travels and the places that he went, all the different forests, all the different villages, and then him meeting with Uddhava. And their discussion is very, 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 very touching, the descriptions of Lord Krishna. Because at this point, Lord Krishna is leaving the world, and everyone is very, very unhappy that the Lord who had protected everyone, who had given so much joy to everyone, now he's leaving. So they had a major discussion about that. And then this particular purport and verse from the third canto, if you want to note it down, is third canto, chapter 4, text 26. So that verse says, Sri Uddhava says, so Uddhava is talking now to Vidura, because Vidura wanted Uddhava to guide him, to educate him, to train him as a spiritual master would do. But there's a particular reason why Uddhava would not do that, and that's described in this purport. And devotees, in analyzing or discussing the idea of guru, tattva, of course, now we have the discussion about female Diksha gurus, all this guru discussion. So devotees who have researched this, they always come back to this particular verse in purport as part of the evidentiary research. So it says, Uddhava uvacha nanu te tattva samradhya rishi kausharvato nike tike sakshad bhagavatat dishto martya lokam jihasata. Sri Uddhava said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world. And in the purport, please listen carefully and we can discuss this, in a few minutes. Although one may be well-versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of maryada vyatikram, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of maryada vyatikram, because by so doing, one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well-versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi, to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well-versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person. But he was well-versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become that. This is very important, this statement by Srila Prabhupada. One should not be very eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of Maryada Vyaktikram. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interest of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. So not to get too deep into the weeds on this topic, but I remember once a devotee told me or approached me and suggested to me, he said, Balabhadra Prabhu, you should become a guru. That way you'll never have any more financial problems. And I was shocked. I was actually shocked that the devotee actually thought of me in that way, that I would become a spiritual master for the sake of maintaining my body, having disciples take care of you, giving dakshina, all those kinds of things. So I was really surprised to think that devotees are thinking like that on some level, that being a guru means having a big position, being invited to sit on a big seat, given all respect, flowers thrown at you, many garlands, so many things. Prabhupada is saying here, that's not the purpose. One should not become eager, become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. So that's the reason why someone should become. The word aspire to become a guru is also a little bit tricky, like trying to become a guru. One should try to be Krishna conscious. And being Krishna conscious, the mood of compassion enters into your heart. And then you look at the world and you see how the world is suffering. And then you begin to preach the philosophy of Krishna consciousness as purely as possible. And in that preaching, someone, maybe quite a few people, will become interested in that preaching, that quality of preaching. As devotees always say about Srila Prabhupada, the quality of his preaching and speaking was penetrating, spiritually penetrating. It went into your ears, it touched your heart, elevated your consciousness. So when you were sufficiently educated, it's not a question of just education. You can study books, you can accumulate information, you can outline it, you can comment upon it. So it's not just that. But when one is sufficiently dedicated to his spiritual master or her spiritual master, and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and convinced of the position of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to the best of that person's knowledge can explain that to others, then one can consider being a spiritual master. Again, aspiring to be is just a little bit of a difficult term for me to use in reference to becoming a spiritual master. I remember being a young brahmachari, no, not a young brahmachari, before I became a brahmachari. I was a grihasta. And I used to look at the brahmacharis wearing the beautiful saffron color. And all I had was either a yellow dhoti or a white dhoti, which is just plain. So I desired to become, I actually wanted to become a brahmachari so I could wear the saffron color. You can take that as you wish, but that was my mindset at that time. Being a very young, inexperienced devotee, I had no idea what real Krishna consciousness was. But gradually over time, I understood the distinction between that. But that was a motivation. So Krishna consciousness, the practice of devotional service, according to Srimad Bhagavatam, should be unmotivated, uninterrupted. What is the motivation? The only motivation is to please Krishna and please the spiritual master. And by doing that, you get their mercy. Yasha prasada, Bhagavad prasada, yasha prasada, nagati katopa. You get their mercy by the mercy of Guru and the mercy of Krishna. So by simply engaging in devotional service to the best of our capacity, all good things will come. But if we contaminate it with motivation, like someone may say, well, I'm motivated to learn how to play Madanga. Okay, it's not a problem there. You can learn how to play Madanga, but for what purpose? So he can be seen as a great Madanga player, as a great Kirtaniya. There's also a little bit of a danger zone when we're saying this great Kirtaniya. Yeah. But the kirtan is for Krishna. It's not about that person. It's not about how wonderful that person can sing or play the instruments. Okay, like Parikshit Prabhu and myself, we're both musicians, and I love how Parikshit plays the keyboard is so masterful in the way he does the low end and the high end and singing so beautifully. But I don't detect in my dear friend Parikshit Prabhu the false ego of that. He already knows his qualification. He can do it. It's not a big deal to sit down and play. But doing it for Krishna is different. And doing it to inspire the devotees. That's another opulence. You want to inspire the devotees to do what? Think of Krishna, not just look at you. Like sometimes in Kirtan Melas, devotees, they sit really close to the Kirtan leader and just looking directly into their face. Okay, maybe. But in reality, that Kirtan is for Krishna. Mm-hmm. So when we do Kirtan, when we preach, when we distribute books, when we cook, when we clean, everything is for Krishna. Basically, this is what Vidura is learning when he's speaking with Maitreya. If you go and read the whole narration, Maitreya gives him so much information on Krishna consciousness. So for us, the essence of all advice is to spend our time nicely hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord. In so doing, Shravanam Kirtanam, we'll be able to speak to the best of our capacity about the glories of the Lord. Then whomever we meet, as Lord Chaitanya instructed, to become guru is very simple. Yare deke tare kara Krishna upadesh, amar agat dhana tare desh. Whomever you meet, just Krishna upadesh, you give them Krishna upadesh. And in order to do that, as Lord Chaitanya said, first you must practice, first you must have the understanding, then you can give it. So we should spend the majority of our time hearing, but hearing where? Okay? Uddhava's telling Vidura, you go to Maitreya. Uddhava could have done it. No, you go to Maitreya. He had the association of Krishna. Go hear from him. And plus the dynamic of Vidura being elderly to Uddhava, so he sent him to another elderly devotee. So in our pursuit of Krishna consciousness, we have such a storehouse of knowledge given by Srila Prabhupada. Of course, during the time of Prabhupada's being in the physical world, he was the eldest, most learned Vedantist. That's a part of a verse in the Bhagavatam. Being the eldest, most learned Vedantist, please tell us, share with us what you consider to be the essence of all knowledge. That's in the first canto. Prabhupada did that. He did that masterfully, lovingly, compassionately. So therefore, as we're trying to progress in Krishna consciousness, what is the first place we should go? And not only go, but remain throughout our lives. I would venture to say at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. Go there, stay there, and absorb, because if we think for 1 second that we've been reading the books for 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, in my case, 53 years, I have it now. Now I can go further. We can do something more. I don't think so. I think constantly approaching Srila Prabhupada and trying to absorb and understand how he presented this knowledge. Because I was just discussing with Vishnu Godal the other day, Vishnu Godal Prabhu, and I wanted him to be here today, but he had to do some wonderful service for one Mataji who just passed away. So anyway, we were discussing some of these points, and he reminded me that when Srila Prabhupada was doing his translation work, he had the books of the acharyas in front of him, big books. Rupa Goswami, Vishwanath Chakravarti, Jiva Goswami, all the books of the acharyas he had with him as he was translating. And Vishnu Godal was pointing out that you look in the purpose, you'll see that he's referring to the acharyas in the purports and quoting them directly. Of course, his own spiritual master, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So it's already there. Everything we need. And also it says in the Bhagavatam, there's no need for any other scripture except Srimad Bhagavatam. Amalam Purana. It's the fruit of all transcendental knowledge right there. And I was thinking this morning before the class, why did Srila Prabhupada begin with the Bhagavatam? Of course, he started with Bhagavad Gita in India, and you know the story there. His manuscript was, lost or stolen or sold by his wife. I can't remember the exact story. But his effort before coming was to complete the first 3 volumes of the Srimad Bhagavatam. He could have done the Vedanta Sutra. He could have even started with Chaitanya Charitamrita. He could have started with many other Vedic literatures that sometimes devotees are interested in reading. But instead, he started with the Bhagavatam before he got on the Jaladuta and got his trunk or a couple of trunks full of Bhagavatams. In fact, I have one of those original Bhagavatams in my home. I protect it. I don't want anyone to take it. So he focused on the Bhagavatam. So the Bhagavatam says there's no need for any other scriptures. So you could say, or making an argument, devil's advocate, then why do we have to read Bhagavad Gita? Why do we have to read Chaitanya Charitamrita? On and on and on. Because Prabhupada gave it. That's why we read those books. Why do we study Nectar Devotion? Because Prabhupada summarized it from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He gave us Nectar Devotion, and also Sri Upanishad and so many wonderful literatures. So as Vidura is going to Maitreya to get all of this training and knowledge, I suggest our first stop is Srila Prabhupada and stay at his lotus feet. Because we cannot in one lifetime understand everything that Srila Prabhupada gave us. And the caution is that, and devotees sometimes they say, in comparing something Prabhupada said with something another Acharya said, that means reading a book of the Acharyas, and then looking back at Prabhupada's books, which we started our spiritual lives with. We didn't start our spiritual lives with the books of the Acharyas. We started with Prabhupada. That's all we had. And that's up until this day. Basically, everyone starts with Srila Prabhupada. So then when you venture out and look at other statements, whether it's mundane statements or whether it's spiritual statements by the Acharyas. For example, when Prabhupada said man didn't go to the moon, not many, but some devotees could not accept what Prabhupada said. It didn't match up to what they had seen on TV. I remember seeing man so-called walking on the moon on TV. So we saw that. And then Prabhupada said this. No, Prabhupada, how can you say that? We saw the man on the moon. That means we're accepting another authority. So when Prabhupada makes a statement like about the living entity falling from the spiritual world and all that, and devotees keep arguing back and forth, what Prabhupada really meant, don't you ever say what you think Prabhupada meant. That's wrong. As Prabhupada said about the Bhagavad Gita as it is. Let Krishna speak for himself. So let Prabhupada speak for himself. And the very fact that we may be a little confused about what he's saying means we're not reading enough. And not just reading, bhajatam pritipurvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam. And Srila Prabhupada elaborates on that dadami buddhi yogam. Krishna gives us the understanding, not that you can make independent research of Srila Prabhupada. No, comparing what he said to what some other acharya said. The Munis, and Prabhupada explains this, a Muni is not a Muni unless he has a different opinion, which means amongst the acharyas, there are different opinions. Sometimes it's based on time, place, and circumstance. They made a statement, like Narada Muni telling Grigori the hunter to not half kill an animal, but to completely kill an animal. When our philosophy is don't kill the animals. How do you square that? Okay, he had to find a way to engage this low-class person in Krishna consciousness. And as the day being the appearance of Lord Ramchandra, and many of you are familiar with Ramayana, maybe have read it. So this Valmiki, please correct me if I'm wrong, in the beginning he was Dasa Ratnakar. Am I saying that correctly? Or maybe I'm saying it wrong. Dasu Ratnakar. He was a murderer, a very vicious kind of person. Then he met with Narada Muni. Narada Muni is always there moving people around. Please correct me if I'm wrong on some of this, because I don't know Ramayana all that so well. But meeting with this Dasu Ratnakar, he had to find a way to engage him in Krishna consciousness. So as the story goes, he told him to chant Mara, Mara, M-A-R-A, instead of Rama, Rama, Mara, Mara. So then by chanting Mara, 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 it becomes Rama, 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 Rama. So by chanting Rama, 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 he, Dadami Buddhi Yogam, had the vision to see Ramchandra's pastimes before Ramchandra appeared. That's what I understand so far. So time, place, circumstance, it happens. So yes, Prabhupada gave some different instructions to different people based on their circumstances. But does that mean Prabhupada contradicted himself? Or that Prabhupada went against the acharyas in doing some of the things he did? Which brings us to the point about female Diksha gurus, which is very, very interesting discussion that's still going on. Well, Prabhupada didn't do that. And I made the point recently that, well, Prabhupada didn't make any female gurus, so we shouldn't do it. I said, Prabhupada didn't make any black gurus. Prabhupada didn't make any Indian gurus, according to that, what happened back in 1977, or Latino, or any other culture. So to say that Prabhupada didn't do that, so we shouldn't do that, you can't speak for Prabhupada, why he did what he did. You can only try to focus on the philosophy. Again, going back to Vidura, he could have taken knowledge from Uddhava. Uddhava said, no, take it from Maitreya. He's more elderly, more experienced. So we have this opportunity to directly interact with Srila Prabhupada through his books, through his lectures. Oh, let me make a little promotion here. There's a software app. There's an app called Transcend. Some of you may have heard of it. It's prepared by devotees. Transcend. And I've had that app for some time, but I never really looked at it carefully. Vishnu Prabhu, when he came back from India, was glorifying that app. And I said, my God, brother, it's glorifying. I should check it out. So I went online and I ordered it. It's like $99 or whatever. But it's all of Prabhupada's books being read by this devotee with a voice like an angel. When I hear him reading, and he reads every Sanskrit sloka or Bengali sloka, all the translations, all the purports. Right now, I'm listening to teachings of Lord Chaitanya like I've never really heard it before. It's the same teachings of Lord Chaitanya, but it's just somehow or another penetrating my steel-framed heart, just hearing that beautiful voice and then hearing Prabhupada's words. What else do I need? I mean, unbelievable. What else in this lifetime should I focus on? Okay, Prabhupada's given us all of this knowledge. And he said, you simply read my books. Now, some devotees make the argument, but Prabhupada said in the books, you can read some books of the acharyas. I say, sure. But the way I look at that, and again, this is just my view, the way I look at that is that I can relish any book from the acharyas. I can relish. But as my dear God sister Urmila pointed out recently, But my primary focus is Prabhupada's books. I like the way she said that. My primary focus, my primary source of study. I can relish Brihad Bhagavatamrita by my dear God brothers and other books that have been presented by different devotees, but my primary source of education from which I quote and try to substantiate whatever I'm trying to say about Srila Prabhupada and Krishna is Prabhupada's books. That's giving credit to Srila Prabhupada. Just like here, Uddhava is giving credit to Maitreya. He had the qualities. He could have done it. But he said, no, you go to Maitreya, giving respect to the senior. So how can any one of us say, no, but you go to this Acharya? Fine, you can do that. But I personally say, Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada said this, Prabhupada said that. And the way to know what Prabhupada said is to scrutinizingly study what he gave us. Scrutinizingly study what you hear from him. I listen to Prabhupada's lecture every day. I send it out to devotees every day, and I get good comments back. Devotees appreciate that. Because I say you need to hear Prabhupada's voice. You're hearing my voice right now, and I'm trying my best to speak from a place of sincerity. I'm trying my best. I don't always succeed, but I'm trying. But when you hear Prabhupada's voice, the sound, that sound is what started this movement. That sound of his voice, his singing, and then his preaching. It penetrated the hearts of devotees like Mukunda Maharaj, who right now is experiencing some difficulties. Everyone, please pray for him. Sesrup Maharaj, the late Brahmananda, Gargamuni, who's still with us. All these wonderful devotees. Ask them, what was it that changed you from being what you were to what you became? Prabhupada's voice and Prabhupada's books. So everyone, my dear godbrother who brought me to Krishna consciousness, he always said in his classes, and by the way, he was a bhakta when he introduced me. His name is Vaishnavananda Prabhu. So he would always use this phrase, like leech, like tenacity. A leech is this little creature that when he grabs onto, you won't let go. So he said, with leech like tenacity, hang on to Srila Prabhupada, study his books, listen to him. Like a leech, just don't let go. Don't be too adventurous. And I notice sometimes devotees, they go and they research different things and they bring it back into discussion amongst devotees. And it's not, they haven't vetted what they may have researched. Who does that vetting? Am I qualified to vet the statements of the acharyas? Or should I more humbly hear what Prabhupada said the acharyas said? He said this morning, Chanakya Pandit was a renowned Brahmana and moralist, politician, but he was not a devotee. But that's in Prabhupada's purpose. You can find all these statements. Chanakya Pandit said, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur said, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, Rupa Goswami said, the story of Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, how they got free from their situation. It's all there. And by the way, like Nectar Devotion, but I work with a group of devotees from Philadelphia. Every week right now, we're reading the Nectar Devotion. And these are all initiated devotees who've been around for years. And they are relishing newer and newer ecstasies on every page. Each one of us reads, each one of us speaks about what we read, and they're just like ecstatic. I remember one day we were reading how Krishna and Radharani, one small pastime, and we were just laughing. It was so funny. It was ecstatic. Prabhupada's summary study of the nectar of devotion. I'm sorry, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So I'm pressing on this point because it's happening right now in our society, ISKCON society, how devotees are really straying away a little bit from Prabhupada's explanations. I mean, what other explanation do I need? Parikshit, I'll tell you, I did a song yesterday. It's called All I Need is Prabhupada, just like that song by the Beatles, All You Need is Love. So I was thinking of that. I said, all I need is Prabhupada for the rest of his life and life after. I mean, all I need is Prabhupada. We have so many wonderful devotees. And that's great. But be careful to over promote any one of us over Prabhupada or more than we promote Prabhupada. How is the world going to change if we don't promote Prabhupada? I said one time in a Sunday lecture, and I meant this from the bottom of my heart because I grew up as a Christian. So I said, do we want to wait for 2,000 years and start digging around in the dirt like archaeologists trying to prove that Prabhupada existed? And why did I say that? Because that's what's happening with the Christians. They still have not proved that Jesus was a real person. They have something called the Shroud of Turin. They try to say that's Jesus and da 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 da. But they haven't conclusively proved it. Even the Christian scholars don't agree at all. So I was thinking, if we don't make Prabhupada the center now, while Prabhupada disciples are still alive who touched him, who heard directly from him, who worked with him, who helped him with translations, so many things. And once that group is gone, which includes me, once we're gone, and then a couple generations down, if we keep promoting other acharyas and even ourselves and other devotees, and of course, even the current gurus and all of that, then 1,000 years from now, we have to dig around and see was Prabhupada real. He's real. I mean, not in a prideful way, but I touched his body. I know he's real. He is real. I had the great opportunity to fan Prabhupada for a whole lecture in Aligarh. He's real. So please, please take advantage of, don't step over the current acharya. In our case, and Vishnu Gadal confirmed this with me, in our case, the primary acharya is Srila Prabhupada. Don't step over him. Learn, understand, and like a parrot, repeat what you've heard from Srila Prabhupada. The devotee who gave the training that I took for teacher training, for Bhakti Shastri and all that. So we took teacher training through this wonderful devotee in Mayapur. Padma Mukha Nitai, that's his name. Padma Mukha Nitai Das. Younger devotee than me, much younger than me. And he said one night in our class that we should be so absorbed in Prabhupada's books, so absorbed that when we have to speak, it comes from the heart. And he told the story how devotees tried to get him to speak a little differently than he normally speaks. He's a very sweet devotee. So they say, you should speak more, whatever, kind of like da 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 with the mudras and all that. And he said he tried to do that. He said, but I cannot, Prabhu. He said, when you speak, speak from your heart. Speak what you know, speak as you normally speak. Just give Krishna consciousness. Don't worry about all the flourishes and just give it. Because something that's spoken from experience has more impact. Jnana, Vijnana, Astikyam, Brahma Karma Sabhavajam. Jnana means the knowledge and Vijnana means by practical application. And I read something Prabhupada said recently. He said, whatever you read, study, you should immediately give it. That giving immediately is actually Sankirtan. I remember years ago, back in Atlanta, in my big Sankirtan days, we would listen to the Bhagavatam class in the morning. And then when we went on Sankirtan, especially at the airport, like that, we would repeat segments of what we heard in the class as we're preaching. Sometimes the boys talk about what line should you use on Sankirtan. Just hear from Prabhupada, hear from devotees describing Prabhupada in the books, and then you share that. So I'm going to stop because I really want to get some input on this. I didn't mean to try not to be too political, but I just see this tendency for devotees almost in a prideful way, saying things like the Acharya said this or the Acharya said that. In many cases, they don't even say which Acharya, just that phrase, Acharyas. And specifically to a primarily Indian-based audience who are familiar with terms like Acharyas and all these things. And they throw these words around. It should be primarily what Prabhupada said. And Srila Prabhupada quoted this particular Acharya, which confirms what that Acharya said. That's the vetting process. Prabhupada already vetted the statements of the Acharyas because they can be a little confusing, as I gave two examples of Narada Muni. How do you square him telling someone to kill an animal completely when that's against the four regulative principles? Okay. And how do you square Haridas Thakur staying in that place where a prostitute was coming to him? How do you square that? He should have got up and ran away. He said, I could have done that, but I stayed for you. That's what he told that Mataji. I stayed for you. Huh. So if we really, really take the time to read Prabhupada's books, think about what he says, reflect on what he says, even down to certain words, reflect on what Prabhupada says, and then to the best of your ability, try to repeat it, and in repeating, give credit to Prabhupada. I heard something years ago, and I can't remember exactly how it was stated, but they said that in the beginning you say, as such and such person said. Okay, you quote that person directly. Then you say, as I said. Then at the last part, he says, as I have always said. Now, the person in the beginning said it. You took ownership of it and started saying it. And then you say, as I have always said. Now it becomes yours. Prabhupada said it. We start quoting it. And then we take the position of being the author of the quote or the point of the philosophy. We are not the authors. Is that my phone? Sorry, I don't know where it is. Sorry about that. So that's a simple way to look at it. We are not the authors of this philosophy. We're simply the servants of Srila Prabhupada. So let me stop and see if anyone has any comments or questions.
Thank you very much.
Prabhu.
Wonderful class. I also have to apologize to the devotees when you were reading the text, the three texts you were reading from Srimad Bhagavatam book. So you weren't looking at the screen. If you looked at the screen, you will realize the screen was stuck. I was just struggling with my computer. It updated and then it threw everything off. So I apologize. When I stopped sharing, then I was able to go behind and even be able to move the mouse. And so the word is that's what was going on. I was just struggling with my computer. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a very nice class and stressing again, Srila Prabhupada, the importance of what he did. He was the one that spread Krishna consciousness the whole world over. Just remember that. Nobody is in that position. Nobody. Nobody from any part of any sampradaya, anywhere. Nobody's in that position. Period. For the earth. So for that reason, remember, I just want to throw this little 2 cents in.
No, thank you. That's more than 2 cents. That's $5. So then, buddies, this is the time to unmute yourself, Bruce, and please make comments, ask questions. Yeah, Vishigana was off, but I think he's back on now, which is nice. So maybe you can start off with comments or as you would like to. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hey, you made it. Howdy bo. Glorious
Yeah,
Prabhupada.
I'm traveling. So, the verse purport that you read about Maryada Vyatikrama.
Yes.
Srila Prabhupada was saying some very strong things that about if you don't do that, you'll get all kinds of trouble by not respecting the senior person.
Yeah.
So there was, and we have classes on Zoom and in temples. And one time the temple authority asked a relatively new bhakta to give a class. And so the new bhakta called me up and said, they want me to give a class, and how can I give the class? There's going to be so many senior persons there. And I don't want to do this because of this Maryada Vyatikrama.
Oh.
So then, what would you tell them?
I'd love to hear what you would tell them. Help to educate me.
I'd like to get input from others too.
Well, one thing is that Prabhupada asked his devotees to speak in front of him several times. I'm sure they were like shocked how to do it. But then they had to speak. So Prabhupada encouraged this, so we can encourage that younger devotee if someone asks him to speak. Okay, I'll give you a true story, a Balabhadra story from 1974. Okay, I'm still a new devotee. I'm not initiated. Been around for about a year. So Gokula Ranjana, who was the head pujari at that time, later became president. He was giving a lecture that night to students from Morehouse College. And Morehouse College is the college that Martin Luther King went to. It's a very famous African American college. And I'm from Atlanta. All these black students were there. But he had to go and take care of the deities because it was, around Sundarati time. And he got up and said, and Bhakta Ben will answer all your questions. And I said, what? Are you kidding? I just started coming here, man. You crazy? Somehow or another, I don't know how it worked out, but I was able to answer because you know why? I have been studying Prabhupada's books seriously for over a year, really studying Bhagavad Gita and like that. So whatever I had studied, based on the question, I would share. So that's my personal example of a senior devotee encouraging a bhakta to speak. So I would encourage that devotee, if someone has enough faith in you, which Gokula Ranjana had faith in me, that I would represent Prabhupada. So if that senior devotee, temple authority, had faith in you enough to ask you to speak, then you speak. But speak what you know. Speak what you know and stick with Prabhupada's book. So that's what I would say, Vishnu Prabhu.
Vidura was a senior devotee.
Yeah.
And he asked Uddhava to speak. But Uddhava said no.
Yeah.
I responded to the person. I said, well, there's always, you can be assigned to do it, but
Yeah.
new people come in, other people come in, somebody you don't expect. So I recommended to the person to ask permission from the devotees, in particular those who might be senior. Because if you get permission, then there's no problem. As you gave your example, it's a understood permission if they're asking you to do it. But you don't know who's there on the call or there on the Zoom or there in the class.
Right.
So
Right.
you can always. There's no harm in asking permission for doing so, to avoid the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama. And anyway, that's what I recommended to them. Of course, we didn't see that Srila Prabhupada did that. But of course, he was, as you mentioned, he was the senior person always, practically. But actually, when his godbrothers came and happened to be there, he would invite them sometimes to come and sit on the
Yeah.
same Vyasa asan with him and speak as well. So Srila Prabhupada showed that to a certain extent with his godbrothers. So anyway, that was what I thought. That's what I suggested to the devotee. Anyway.
Excellent suggestion. Yeah. Seek the permission, seek the blessing. Yeah. I remember the first time that I believe it was the first class that Bhakti Tirthamaj gave in the temple. I know when they did traveling, they gave classes to each other, but I happened to be there. That time he was Ganesham. And he was traveling with Satsu Maharaj. And Satsu Maharaj asked him to give the class. It was an evening Bhagavad Gita class. Now, it was, to my knowledge, the first temple class he gave. And Satsu Maharaj was sitting right in front of Ganesham Prabhu, Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, right in front. And he corrected him in the class. He said, no, that's not correct, blah, 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 blah. So I remember being in New York in 77, I think it was 77 for Rath Yatra. And some new Brahmana had to give a class. And then I know the tradition was the same in Atlanta. All the senior devotees would sit right in the front. And it's almost like putting a little pressure on them to understand what they knew. So yeah, I mean, when we're asked to speak, we generally have to speak on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and Krishna. But to your point, Vishnu, I think it's really nice that if you're a younger devotee and you're asked to give a class in front of a lot of senior devotees, or you're not even sure how many senior devotees might be there, then asking for their blessing or their permission would be advisable. Am I still on point with what you're saying, Vishnu Prabhu?
Yeah, of course. And then you might ask the next thing, would that translate into other services as well, or not? I mean, giving class. Giving class is one item, but there's other items of devotional service. Uh, for example, I was in Bombay, and they asked me to lead the Mangal Arti, and then I saw one of my senior godbrothers there, and I thought, well, they asked me, but he's my senior, so I went and said, please, if you like, please
Yeah.
lead the kirtan. I mean, I don't know that's true. It's just kirtan, but anyway.
Yeah. It's beautiful, beautiful example.
All right. Thank you for the discussion. Yeah, it also reveals quite a few things, subtle things that sometimes we don't take
If you have
note of.
time, if you have time at the end, I have a couple of questions about Ramayana that you might, and I know today is a fast day, at least till noon. So if you have time, I'll ask the questions at the end after you finish your discussion.
Sure.
If you want. If you want. No pressure.
Okay. Okay, so any questions or comments? Before that, we know that Mr. Prabhu has a couple of questions to ask. But before that, if you want to do it at the end, that's why I'm asking if the boys have any comment now. Okay, Damodar Prabhu, please go ahead. Hare Krishna, I see you raise your hand.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances. All
Hare
glories to
Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhupada.
Glories to Prabhupada. He go.
Thank you so much for a very nice class. Again, as always, and the reminder of keeping Srila Prabhupada in the center, that is really something that I take away from your classes. Whenever see you, I know the class is around, coming around, keeping Prabhupada in the center, keeping Prabhupada's books in the center. I really like hearing your classes. Thank you so much. Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhu. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Okay. Any other final comments before Vishnu Prabhu asks his questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, please accept my humble obeisances.
Jai Prabhu.
All
Hari
glories to
Bol.
Srila Prabhupada.
Glories
Thank
to
you
Srila
so much,
Prabhupada.
Prabhu, for wonderful class and very, very important reminders. I took some learnings for myself, especially from the the discussion between you and His Grace Vishnu Gada Prabhu. One question is, Prabhu, when we, of course, we need to respect and take the shelter of senior devotees.
Yeah.
And sometimes, practically, when there might be, in our mind or in our understanding, there might be differences in the instructions of different seniors. Not that they are giving different instructions, but because I'm not able to understand
Right.
or sync between them. So how to handle that situation, or who at on in such a confusion, whom should we take shelter of?
Interesting question. Taking shelter of or clarifying. I have this this quote that I learned in a management class. It says clarification of mutual expectation. So that word clarification is extremely important. And I've dealt with this particular scenario that you put out where my GBC said something and my local person said something, and I'm in the middle. Especially when I was temple president in Atlanta for about 18, 19 years, I had co-GBCs. I had Japatakan Raju on one end, and I had Rupanuga Prabhu on the other end, two GBCs. So I'm trying to resolve an issue. For instance, we had to sell some property, and you can't sell this kind of property without the permission of the property trustees, and they were both property trustees. So I was getting advice from both of them, and it was a little bit not contradictory, but just different. So I made sure before my final decision was made that I had clarification from both of them, and I brought both of them into the discussion because it's very difficult to get two GBCs to sit down together sometimes, very hard. But in order for me to act and remain true to Srila Prabhupada, I need to know. So if you have two senior devotees giving you instructions and you're not clear, it's incumbent upon you to get clarification. And if it's a specific item that they both have some influence on, Okay, if they're going telling you to do something and they do have some authority in guiding you and you have to do a particular action, you have to make sure that they are clear somehow on the same page or at least close on the thing they're asking you to do. If it's just general information, then you can go back yourself and research what Prabhupada said about it. But if their instruction is tied to your action, which will impact the lives of devotees, you have to be very clear, very, very clear. You can't just say, well, such and such devotee said this. That's why. Like Vishnu was pointing out about the fasting on the particular days. And I was confused this morning because I have one document that says fast till noon. I have a GBC calendar that says fast till sunset. I'm thinking, why is this confusing? It's coming from so-called two authorized sources. Which one should I follow? So I'm glad that Vishnu pointed it up so we can discuss that a little bit as well. So, dear Krishna, my point being that if the thing that they're asking you to do is going to impact your spiritual life and impact or influence the lives of those who might be under your care, you have got to make sure that you're clear on what they're saying. And one of the best ways is bring them together. Seriously. He said, Prabhu, I appreciate what you said, and Prabhu, but I'm a little confused. Please help. Last example was in Mayapur. It was like 1990, I believe. And there was this discussion between Riddhananda Maharaj and Tamal Krishna Maharaj about a particular issue in Vaishnav development. And they were not on the same page. They were just not on the same page. All the GBCs were there, all the temple presidents were there, and they were not on the same page. But then, I forget the devotee's name, slips my mind. He had the entire set of Chaitanya Charitamritas on his desk in the meeting. And he pulled out the Chaitanya Charitamrita about Gunjicha Marjana, about cleansing the heart like Lord Chaitanya cleansed the temple. And he read from that. And it resolved the issues between two very senior ISKCON guru sannyasis who just had their own opinion. But when they heard together in that room, together what Prabhupada said, they both agreed. So I don't know if that makes all the sense in the world to you, but I'm just saying that two senior devotees or three senior devotees giving you advice, you need to clarify. Okay, dear Krishna Prabhu?
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Definitely, it was very helpful. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Any final comments or questions?
So maybe we can get Vishnu Gada's input now.
Yes, that's what I'm asking. All right, Vishnu Prabhu, please have my humble obeisances, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. As they say in politics, the floor is yours now.
I know on the BBT calendar it also says to fast until sunset. And in these issues, there's been a little confusion over the years.
Yeah.
And it's since I was one of my services for a long time was being a cook in the kitchen, the head cook. So if you had to know what you're supposed to do, you can't say, well, it doesn't matter. You have to know what to do. So that's I wrote something about Gaur Purnima, and it was on Dandavats.com. I don't know if anybody saw it. The Gaur Purnima breakfast. But in the terms of Ram Nomi, the Shastric Advisory Council, which is a group of devotees from that are deputed by the GBC to research an issue, they put out a position paper about what the fast is to be on Ram Nomi. And you can find it, if you search for it, you can find it on Dandavats.com, what their position is. And it's approved by the GBC. So there it'll say, ultimately the conclusion is fasting till noon.
Oh.
That's their conclusion. I know I was in Vrindavan in 1975 for the opening of the Krishna Balaram temple. And it happened to open on Ram Nomi. And Srila Prabhupada was present there. And so and I remember I was hungry. But the fasting went till the afternoon. It was around maybe 2-3 o'clock, something like that.
Yeah.
But and it wasn't a Ekadashi breakfast at that time. Anyway, so those things. But that's not the question. The question I wanted to pose for our August audience is that, we hear often, Srila Prabhupada mentioned, and it's written in the Vedic literature also, that the human form of life is the opportunity to develop Krishna consciousness. Cats, dogs, and animals, they can't do that. And there's 400,000 species, different species of human life. We know that when Lord Chaitanya went through the forest of Jarikanda, he got the deer and the tigers and the elephants to chant and dance, and the peacocks also. Of course, that was kind of an exceptional thing. They're not humans, they're animals, but because of Lord Chaitanya's presence, they were able to chant and dance in ecstasy. So, for the pastime of Lord Ramchandra, we have Hanuman, Sugriva, Jambavan, and they have tails. So, are they one of the 400,000 species of human life, or was it Lord Ramchandra's special, like Lord Chaitanya in the forest of Jarikanda? He gave them that special mercy so that they were able to engage in his service. You understand the question?
Yes. I'm looking forward to some of the responses from the devotees. It's a very good question. If anybody wants to
Hare Krishna.
address it.
Some of the basis was super powerful. So, Prabhu, this particular servants of Lord Ram, they, starting from, as we can see, they were in monkey bodies. And monkeys, from what we know, we classify them as animals. But the situation with Ramayan, as Lord Ram is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So to communicate with any type of body, in the soul in any kind of body, that's not difficult for him to do. What we heard in Ramayan, of course, is what we can understand. It has been changed to our language. So that's as far as I want to go with that. It's not so difficult for the Lord to communicate, with attendants who are in different bodies. And even in the spiritual world, Shukadeva Goswami is a parrot. So can he communicate with Srimati Radharani? Absolutely. So these kind of things, in one sense, is over my head. I have to admit how it's all possible to do it. But in another sense, because Krishna is Krishna, Lord Ram is Lord Ram, what can he not do? That's where I'm sitting. So in one sense, I haven't answered the question, but just throwing the faith at Lord, he can make anything happen. He can just make anything happen. So
he can make anything happen would be more on the side of Lord Chaitanya empowering the elephants and tigers to chant, as opposed to that they were part of the 400,000 human species, and therefore they were able to serve Lord Ram just because that's your
yes,
on
that's
that
why I'm
side.
going with it. Exactly. Yeah.
And by the way, about Shukadev Goswami, his eternal relationship with Lord Krishna is parrot.
Parrot.
But it does, his eternal relationship, but that doesn't necessarily translate that he is a parrot in the spiritual. He is a parrot. I mean, it is because when he was in the womb of the Vyasadev's wife, it says he was an impersonalist. He was absorbed in the Brahmavadi, and when he heard the Srimad Bhagavatam, it was assured by Lord Krishna. So slightly different, not completely the same. When you say yeah. Anyway, so you're putting, yeah. So I wondered what others say about the.
Well, one thing I just found. Let's see. I'll make sure I didn't lose it. Yeah, because at Hanuman, the race is called the Kim Purushas, And in one verse, 11 canto, 14th chapter, text number 7, I believe Ridananaraj, and who else with the translation on this? It mentions he rules a race of monkeys. So in the purport, it mentioned how they're half man, I'll say half man or half monkey, not fully monkey, partially monkey and partially human, something like that. I was trying to find it again. Is that right, Vishnu? About the Kim Purushas? Do we lose him?
Kim Purusha technically means, Kim means what? Purusha means human. Are they human? Kim Purusha, are they human? Kim Purusha, are they human? So it doesn't really help too much. Kim Purusha, are they human? It's really interesting because, Srila Prabhupada was asked by Mother Jadharani because she was painting the pictures for the Krishna book. And in the Krishna book, there's the story of the Shyamantaka jewel.
Yeah.
And in the Shyamantaka jewel story, Lord Krishna fights with Jambavan. Now, Jambavan, is one of the associates of Lord Ramchandra from a previous age.
Yes.
So she was asking Srila Prabhupada how to depict Jambavan. Because some people say Jambavan is a bear. So you can find Prabhupada's response there. And he said that, well, if Jambavan was a bear, how is it that Jambavan's daughter is going to marry Lord Krishna? Because Jambavati.
Yeah.
So he said, just because he's the king of the bears, but that doesn't make him a bear, he said. He's the king of the bear. And then he said something like, he was something like a gorilla man.
Like a
Because,
yeti.
there's another associate of Lord Ramchandra who's there in Krishna's pastimes. Do you know who that is? Dvivid. Dvivid. We sometimes say Dvivid gorilla, right?
Yeah.
Dvivid gorilla. And so Dvivid gorilla, he was a minister for Sugriva in the Ramchandra's pastimes. But somehow, by bad association, he turned, even though he was involved with Lord Ramchandra's pastimes. Isn't that interesting? But he's termed a gorilla. So I'm leaning on the side that they are in one of the 400,000 human species. And that's what I'm thinking. But I don't know of any definitive statement by Srila Prabhupada. Interestingly, the book called Forbidden Archaeology by Michael Cremo, that's Druta Karma and Sadaputta, there's a whole chapter on sightings of ape men. And very, very detailed and reliable witnesses have run across ape men. And in fact, the world expert in cryptozoology, I forget her name, but she says there's absolute proof, yes, it's absolutely true, that there are even today ape men.
Bigfoot.
Yes, ape men. And so anyway, they may be less prominent than they were during the time of Lord Ramchandra, but anyway, so there are ape type men, and there are more men. Prabhupada said that he was more a gorilla type. Dvivid was a gorilla type man. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, and the very point about the 400,000 species of human life is like, have we seen them all on this planet? Obviously not. Oh, and then the other question was, are the races, the different forms, like Orientals, Blacks, Caucasians, are they different forms
Yes.
of 400,000
So
species?
what makes a Vedic species? So in modern science, the way it's worked is that a species is unique if from another species if they can mate. If they're two dogs look very different, but if they can mate and have a fertile offspring, then they're the same species, according to the Vedic view. So they're the same species. So a donkey and a horse, they can mate, and the result is a mule. But a mule is sterile; it can't have offspring. So therefore, they say that a donkey and a horse are different species. Yeah,
Yeah.
but the Vedic species, this is Sadaputa. We don't find it delineated very thoroughly, but according to Sadaputa, the Vedic species don't have that. That's not their criterion. That if they mate, they have a
Offspring.
fertile offspring. So, with if that's true, then like in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadev Goswami says, "Kirata hunandra pulinda pulkasha abiri shumba yavanaka." It appears, this is from Sadhuputa, I'm not, it appears that these were considered different species, as you said, like races are on the level of different species, even though they can mate and have fertile offspring. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I
Anyway,
can't say I understand it, but that did make sense. It's very interesting.
Yeah. Hare Krishna.
All
so
right.
there's one chapter in that book, Forbidden Archaeology, that's just about the evidence for the current evidence for ape men. It's about 60 pages or so. It's very interesting, and I'd recommend reading it for those who might have an interest,
Thank
especially
you.
today. Because
Yeah.
there was a movie called The Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
That wasn't Lord Ramchandra's though. No relation to Lord Ramchandra though.
Hmm. Very interesting. Thank you for bringing this up. Dear Krishna Prabhu put something in the chat, so I'm going to read that. He said, Hare Krishna, also all associates of the Lord either appear from Vaikuntha or Devlokas to assist in his pastimes. Okay, well, he added that to it.
That's good.
Part of the discussion, yeah.
Yeah,
That's another class.
but they may not have the same form
Yeah.
in this when they so like for example, Hanuman is in this most recent Ramchandra Leela. He's a expansion of Vayu, and Vayu in the in his Deva activities doesn't necessarily look like a Vanara or some kind of so but still that's he expands there as in other Divya Yugas, Hanuman is said to be an expansion of Lord Shiva, but not in the most recent one.
Haribo.
So there are very intricate details here, depending on the yuga and all of that. But when you were talking about it, let's throw this one comment in that if ape men are there, then they will empower the scientists who are going by, oh, we evolved from apes. Look, there's a transition between an ape and a man. They are ape men, therefore, maybe our assumption that man came from that particular group becomes a human being, maybe that should be accepted because there's a transition type body called an ape man. And I would just, it's a little difficult for me to have to personally, although these things are important, very, important because they are facts, things that have happened here on this planet. But it's extra information and that's good, but we never lose our focus though, because Srila Prabhupada is guiding us exactly where to go, whatever we do. Hare Krishna. But Prabhu, thank you very much for bringing these points out. I'm assuming you're done with, I don't know whether you have any more Brahmayan points to bring
No,
up.
that's right. That's
Okay.
right.
All right. So we'll end here then. Thank you and yes, there is fasting this morning for Ramayan. And yeah, it did say calendar fast in the calendar, Vaishnava calendar fast till dusk, but now we also know you can fast till
I'm
noon.
going to noon.
Hare Krishna. Yeah.
Haribo.
Jai. Thank you
All
all.
glories to Lord Ramchandra ki.
Yeah. There is a program in the evening. Come. Jai.
Haribo.
I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah.
No
Hare
problem.
Krishna.
Thank you,
Jai.
Prabhu.
Vanchakapaturupesya kripa sindhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Srila
Haribo.
Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you again. Hare Krishna. Jai.